welcome everybody to the holiday edition, 2024 holiday edition, the last global R&D this year. This year really has been a great year for R&D, for ICP in general. And obviously we have a full program for you today. We start with metrics with Kyle and Ivan really driving home the point of how great the year has been for ICP. We'll have Moni covering the core protocol with a lot of changes that happened there that drove these metrics. Then Sasha will look at the operational aspects, topology, some of the incidents we also had to manage this year and managed this year. Then we look at the boundary nodes, the trust, the environment of the intercomputer that at the end of the day make this all useful, all the smart contracts that we have on the intercomputer. And then we talk about UTOPIA. Ivan will lead us through that. Another hot topic after, besides UTOPIA, was chain fusion, where Gregory will tell us what happened in this space. Then Laura will tell us about the evolution in governance. Islam will talk about what happened in AI. I mean, we can't do anything about 2024 with AI after all, and so we're no different here. And finally, but of course not least, Samuel will talk about the R&D team. Yes, we go through these metrics. I mean, totally, if you look at the dashboard, you see this typical hockey sticks that everybody really likes. I mean, that's the sign that you're doing something well, that great things are coming. But there's, of course, much more than that. I think this show would be boring if now Ivan and Kyle just showed us the main page of the dashboard. Everybody can go there themselves, get delighted. I mean, just by itself, great to see. But yeah, over to you, Kyle and Ivan. Let's see what else, other metrics you have for us.
It is hockey season, Jan, and so it's great to see some hockey stick charts as well. Yeah, let's just start real quickly with the fact that ICP is home to 22 of the 25 most active DAOs in all of Web3. ICP has really carved out a place in our industry as the home of DAOs, and that should come as no surprise given the fact that a DAO on ICP is not just a token treasury. It includes full decentralization of applications. In fact, if you look at the top 20, if you look at the top 15, every single one of them are ICP apps. This is the top 15 from DeFi Llama's governance page. And all of them are either SNSs or the NNS itself. This year, in 2024, 15 SNSs deployed, which is a phenomenal number. And so we continue to expect our control of the DAO sphere in our industry to continue into 2025. Now, Yvonne, certainly these DAOs have to be producing some decent usage metrics on the internet computer. So give us a taste there.
Yes, I will. And here you have at least a partial hockey stick already. Yeah, there has been quite a lot of computation going on the internet computer, and basically the fundamental unit of a computation executed by the WebAssembly virtual machine is an instruction, and these instructions are used to measure the computational resources that are being consumed by the canisters. So clearly that's something to look at. And what we see here is how many of these instructions have been executed per second over the year. And we were at the more or less 17,000 such instructions per second this time last year, and now we are quite a bit higher. Actually today it's more than 4.5 times more than exactly this time last year, and this shows how much more the internet computer executes these days. Another unique feature that helps us to attract users, we'll see on the next slide, it's HTTP outcalls. Outcalls allow canisters to make calls to any web server out there, and this feature has gained a lot of popularity in the past few months. You can see here that if you look at how many such outcall requests are issued in 24 hours, then we were at around 120,000 at roughly 3 months ago, and now we are quite a bit above 160,000. So a very nice growth here, and this is I think quite a lot of this is due to chain fusion, but I don't want to take away too much of Gregory's story. Now, this just illustrates that we have grown, but I'd also like to say thanks to our community and to our developers that have actually, so the community that has told us what they want and what they need, and our developers here at the DFINITY, but also some people out there that have contributed to realizing these features. So here you see a list of 15 features that the people wanted us to work on, and we did. But please keep your requests coming. If you scan this QR code or go to dx.internetcomputer.org, you can tell us your favorite feature, what is still missing, and vote what we should be working on. Yeah, now talking about developers, Kyle, what has been going on there?
Yeah, developer community is growing fast on ICP, and it's phenomenal to see this growth. That growth has been recognized by Electric Capital in their 2024 report, which just dropped, I believe it was last week, showed ICP as the #2 fastest growing chain of full-time developers and #4 fastest growing chain for overall developers. You can see in that screenshot that we had 75% growth year over year in developers, and this is in the context of the industry actually flatlining last year in developer growth. So phenomenal growth. I recommend everyone check out developerreport.com to see this for themselves. And all this developer activity and user activity, if we go to the next slide, Jan, has led to the fact that Internet Computer is now the fourth has the fourth highest network revenue amongst layer 1 protocols. So you can see, not the greatest screenshot, my apologies, from Token Terminal, but you can see Tron's in first, Ethereum, Solana, and then fourth place, Internet Computer. A big difference, a big drop off between Solana and Internet Computer, but that gap is closing very, very fast. Just to give you a couple data points to show you how fast that is closing. Between October and November, network revenue for the Internet Computer saw 39% growth. We're on pace in December to do greater than 40% growth compared to just November. If you take 40% month over month growth and you analyze it, you get 5,600% year over year growth. So we're on pace with the last 2 months to do basically a 56x in network revenue. That's awesome to see. So Merry Christmas. Thank you, Jan, and hand it back to you.
Thank you, Kyle and Ivan. I mean, really great numbers, and it's mind-boggling to see how these numbers will turn out next year. And I guess in order to have that, we will have Mani's team very busy. Not that they were sleeping this year, so Mani, over to you. What happened in the core protocol to allow for all of this?
Yeah, let's dive in. Yeah, so let's start with taking a step back. Our vision is really to make ICP, that the ICP makes the internet into a world computer, which means more and more software runs on chain, takes advantage of the extra security, reliability, and enabling true ownership that you can get on chain. And so if we want this really to go mainstream, to get mass adoption, I think we need to make different groups happy, right? We need to make sure that developers are happy building on ICP. Otherwise, there's without developers, there's no ecosystem. Of course, users need to be happy using those apps on ICP. So somehow we need to make sure that the protocol makes those nice to use. And we need that we can keep up with all the performance. We just saw the metrics, so how it's already going up. Yeah, so these are the 3 things I'm going to talk about, what improvements we made. Next slide, please. So on the developer-facing front, there were a lot of key features that the core protocol contributed to. So we now support installing running larger WASMs. Previously, that was limited, but now you can use some chunked installation to have large WASM modules running as well. We have the ability to take full snapshots of your canister, which in case something goes wrong, can turn out very, very helpful because you can roll back to an old state. Also, Motoko made progress with this enhanced orthogonal persistence, which makes it easier to deal with persistent state in Motoko. And with logging, backtraces, and actionable error messages, we made it much easier to debug your canister, to know what's happening and know in case something goes wrong, and then exactly what went wrong and how you can fix it. And so hopefully overall, these are meaningful contributions to allow developers to build correct and successful apps. And this is also a big focus area for next year, so you'll hopefully hear more on that in the future. Then let's move on to the users. So of course, we really, we thought about this from the very beginning, right? So some of the early decisions we made were very much tailored towards removing barriers that users might have in interacting with these apps. So with the chain key verification, the reverse gas model, and the fact that smart contracts and serve web assets, we try to really make it really easy, right? The user just needs a browser and can now interact seamlessly with an ICP application. So there's no barriers. In 2024, next slide, please. The biggest improvement that we made here was with the tokamak milestone, where we drastically reduced end-to-end latency. So every time you interact with an ICP app and you click some button or you do something, this triggers an ingress message that goes to the blockchain, is agreed upon, is executed, the result is certified, and comes back to your browser, and now you know it happened. And this whole flow now essentially takes half as long. And in absolute numbers, that means that it might actually happen within a second, on average, more like 1.3 seconds on an application subnet. But so this is very fast. And you notice this also when you make ICP transactions or when you log in with II or so. So across the board, this should make ICP applications feel snappier, which hopefully makes users happy. Next slide, please. And then, yeah, as Ivan and Kyle showed, like the load significantly increased. And so it's very important that we can keep up with that load. And so again, here, this was, of course, a thought from the very beginning with how we use powerful hardware. We have on-chain parallelism. We have this deterministic decentralization where we try to be very decentralized without useless replication that just makes things expensive. And of course, we have the subnet architecture that allows us to scale. Now, this year, we made a lot of progress. First, with the Stellarator milestone, where we tripled the ingress bandwidth on one subnet. So that means you can send 3 times as many bytes to canisters on one subnet as before, which is a very big change. A subnet can now store a full terabyte of state, and we can have half a terabyte of memory per canister. These things are thanks to the new storage layer that has been built. So this is all around data and the Stellarator milestone. We're also already working towards the next milestone, codename Flux, for hopefully 2025, where we focus on more compute capacity. So in this year, we already made big changes to the scheduler so that it performs much more fairly under load. So the different canisters have equal chances to compute. We more than tripled the throughput when there's many active canisters. So we saw that was a weak spot in the protocol this year, and we made that much better. And we made changes to the cycles pricing. And so it's good to remember that all these performance improvements of a subnet are important for 2 reasons. The first is that it allows one canister to have more performance because one canister can never do more than a subnet. And secondly, it's very important for the tokenomics and if one subnet can do more, it also means it can burn more cycles. And in combination with that fair cycles pricing, where we made some changes to things that were too cheap before, we now are in a state where if a subnet is busy, it also means it must be burning a lot of cycles, which means that from a tokenomics perspective, it's good to add more subnets. And this, of course, will continue in the next year. So thanks for that, and back to Jan.
Thanks, Fanny. Great to see how you doubled and tripled things here. And I guess if that's not good enough, I mean, it will be getting us a long way. But then also there's the roadmap coming for next year, right? You can take a peek, look, and we will also update the roadmap with all the great stuff for next year in January. The internet computer, of course, is more than just a protocol and just on the node. It's also the node it runs and all these data centers, and it needs to be operated. And I guess that is doing that smoothly well is as important as all the other parts. And so it's great to hand over here to Sasha to bring us up to speed on what happened in this area this year.
Yeah, so all this growth created an impact, of course, on both the topology and the stability of the mainnet. Over the past year, we managed to actually increase decentralization of the network without actually increasing the number of node machines. And the way we did this is precisely this year, the number of contracts with Gen 1 node providers is expiring, and we are about to renew these contracts. So we managed to negotiate with Gen 1 node providers to actually cap the number of nodes per node provider to 42. And nodes, these node providers will be expected to sell these nodes and actually start new node providers. So we managed to agree that with the node providers, with the community, and this is expected to significantly increase decentralization in the next period. Beside that, we have a number of Gen 2 nodes as well, which are also significantly adding to the decentralization of the network. And we also have some decommissioned node that we are additionally planning to offer to the public as a way to further improve decentralization of the network. Next slide, please. Regarding the target topology that we managed to reach last year, we have a number of application subnets. We actually have 31 application subnets. We agreed with the community by a motion proposal to create up to 20 additional application subnets to handle the additional load. And we also agreed to open up verified subnets to the public for general compute and for general canisters. And in addition to that, we also had the capacity to increase the subnet size of a few subnets of critical importance, such as SNS and fiduciary subnets, from 28 to 34 nodes to further increase the decentralization and security of these subnets. So overall growth across the board. Regarding releases and incidents, we had in the past year 1,870 subnet upgrades, which is a pretty big number. This happened due to the 44 regular releases and 79 feature releases or hotfix. So for every regular release, we had almost 2 feature releases. We created a lot of automation to drive this, so it did not create a huge amount of work on our team. And about the network stability, we'll see on the next slide, we had only 380 alerts, and out of those, only 1% said 1 alerts. Over the years, the total number of incidents was actually going down. Yeah, as you can see, the trend lines. And next slide. More specifically, for the previous years, we had a reduction in pretty much every type of severity incidents. Specifically for SEV1 incidents, which are the highest criticality, we had in 2023 we had 3 incidents. This year we had 4. We actually expected to have a lot more SEV1 incidents because of the significantly higher utilization of the network, but we actually ended in a pretty good spot. So hopefully stays that way.
Thank you, Sasha. Great to see also how this area, the internet computer, becomes more and more mature, and how well the community and our team handles these things. As you know, like every smart contract on internet computer has a browser, and all it takes really for a user to talk to internet computer is a browser. this does just not happen like that, right? It requires like the boundary nodes, and we actually made a lot of improvement in this area this year. And Rüdiger, tell us about it.
Yes. So I'm bringing you a review, and I like to call it the edge of the internet computer, because as Jan said, all the requests that come from the outside and go to the internet computer go through one of the boundary nodes and through the libraries that the Trust team is working on. So I'm looking back on the last year, and I'll start with the boundary node team. The big focus on the boundary node team was and still is the solenoid milestone. So it's the decentralized, the new boundary node architecture, where we're going to split today's boundary nodes, the green box, into NNS managed API boundary nodes and HTTP gateways. And there we're actually very close to switching over to the new architecture. In particular, we have already 3 API boundary nodes running for several months. And we're preparing everything to submit the necessary proposals to add more API boundary nodes at the beginning of the next year. So we won't do that before Christmas. And as soon as we have those more API boundary nodes, we'll start routing traffic through them. If you want to stay up to date on the developments, just check out the forum thread. And then, while we were working on that milestone, we had to take a little break at the beginning of the year. So as 2024 began, we saw quite heavy load, bringing the boundary node infrastructure to the limits. And we took a quick break, switched focus, and invested heavily in improving the performance and just eliminating bottlenecks in the boundary nodes and the related services. And this actually led, as you can see on the right, in 2 phases to significantly increase the capacity and also improve the robustness of the boundary nodes. A second, more, let's say, internal milestone was the re-architecture under the hood. So we created 2 new services, IC Boundary and IC Gateway. They allowed us to get rid of Nginx and the collection of hard to maintain, hard to debug bash scripts. And these 2 new services are also at the core of the upcoming API boundary nodes and the HTTP gateways. And this is a nice transition to the Trust team, because the Trust team is working on the HTTP gateway library, which is a component of the HTTP gateway. So at the beginning of the year, the Trust team released the HTTP gateway library. And this is really what Jan mentioned. It allows you to directly access a canister hosted on the IC through your browser. So as I said, this library is part of the HTTP gateway. And for example, when you open up internetcomputer.org, your request will go into the HTTP gateway through this library to the IC and back, and you can open up the website internetcomputer.org with your browser. Now, this library is also used by Pocket IC, and it basically allows anyone to build their own HTTP gateway. A second part that is very important for the HTTP gateway protocol is certification. And there, the Trust team has put a lot of time into creating a collection of libraries to help developers use certification at different levels of abstraction. So we have, for example, the HTTP certification library that provides a lot of tooling around handling certified HTTP. And as a present for Christmas, New Year's, that's why I put all those gifts there. The Trust team is in the process of releasing the asset certification library. And this one really abstracts almost everything away and lets you operate at the level of assets. So why would you use this library? So it's mostly for cases where the asset canister doesn't serve your purpose, or it's also for single canister dApps such as Tagger, Juno, the NNS dApp, and the Internet Identity. And then just this Monday, we have rolled out support for another great feature, which is chunked certification. Now, what this does is it allows the boundary nodes to verify the certification of a large asset chunk by chunk instead of buffering it all at once and verifying it as a whole. And this helps improve the user experience as data reaches the users faster, and it sets the groundwork for certified range requests, which is a highly expected feature from the community. And that's all I have to report from the edge of the internet computer. So back to you, Jan.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rüdiger. This was great. Yeah, you know, like the vision of the internet computer is that anybody can just run software on the internet and not worry about it. But I guess some people want to worry a little bit more where their software runs. And for those people, we have UTOPIA, don't we, Ibanon?
Absolutely. All the benefits of the Internet Computer Protocol, namely the sovereignty that you get, the security, and also the simplicity of writing and running the apps, that is attractive to many organizations. But as you said, for some, they need more control than what ICP mainnet can offer. And to also have a solution for them, we've been working on UTOPIA, where you can have private instances of the Internet Computer Protocol. And what that means is, as you will see on the next slide, that on the one hand, we have different governance. So it's not a voting based system with neurons and whatnot that works for these kind of organizations, but something that is more tailored to the enterprise and the government sector. So that's distinction number one. And also at the very bottom, instead of running machines in independent data centers all over the world, for UTOPIA, the UTOPIA owner can decide where they want to run the protocol. Should it be on machines that they own and control, or should it be machines that are controlled by one or several cloud providers? The Internet Computer Protocol should still be able to provide the benefits that I mentioned earlier. And that's not just good for the people who will get to run these UTOPIA instances, but actually for all of us. On the one hand, for the developers, they are now able to build applications that reach bigger market, and whenever something has more customers, then of course this generates more interest and will also have positive effects on the rest of our ecosystem with more attention, more resources, more development going on in general. So I think working on UTOPIA is a very, very promising endeavor. And we've been very busy this year. We started with just looking at, does this actually work? Can we run the Internet Computer Protocol also in the cloud? And actually in February, we showed, yes, we can, but it is quite a lot of work. It's not as easy as it sounds. And the rest of the year, we've been working on the two things that I mentioned before. On the one hand, the different governance system with the canisters that are tailored to the requirements of international organizations and enterprises. And on the other hand, how to make the release process and operational tasks easier. We started with a very small team early this year and have been growing quite a bit this year. And right now, actually just this afternoon, I've had the pleasure to attend a big demo session where we now have on-prem deployment and verified release process. So very, very cool progress. However, while we have achieved a lot, there's also still a lot to do. And next year, we really want to bring this to production level. Right now, we are getting there, but there's still a few areas to polish, in particular with respect to releasing everything and making sure that we have backups and recovery and all that covered. There's quite a lot of work left, but I'm very, very happy to mention that actually there's a lot of interest from external companies and international organizations and governments. They are very curious about this project. They want to try try this out. And while I can't make the announcements of names right now, I'm very sure that in one of the next global R&Ds, you will hear some more concrete announcements. And yeah, and we will have projects that show that Utopia can run on-prem and in the cloud.
Thank you, Ivanan. So I guess what we can say, there will be like a version of like a Utopia network soon in Cambodia. And I'm looking forward how the internet computer can talk to a Utopia network in Cambodia. But there are, of course, more networks out there. And I guess Chain Fusion is all about all these other networks. The internet computer wants to talk to all of them. So Gregory, what happened in this space?
Yes, so this year, actually quite a lot happened. And I thought I will first start with a little retrospective. So if we go back down the historical lane, then in 2023, we started with CKBTC. And then at the end of that year, we had the CKEF. And that year basically was the year of the CK ERC20. So tokens, so ERC20 is a standard on Ethereum of non-fungible tokens. And the CK ERC20 is a twin of that token on the IC. And we started in May by kicking it off with a CK USDC. So the twin of USDC, a stable coin on Ethereum. And then we continuously, over the next 3 months, released various CK-ERC20 tokens. I will not name all of them. That's a lot of logos and token symbols, but I will mention in July in particular CK-USDT, which is another twin of a stablecoin, this time USDT from Tether. So now I will focus on both milestones that we had over the year, which is Tritium in May and Deuterium in August. So if you go to the next slide, the Tritium milestone is focused in particular on EVM chains. So with 2 parts, the first is this infrastructure for being able to add a new CK-ERC20 token with just a single NNS proposal. Where we started with CK USDC. And the second part was to allow any developer to reach EVM chains, so not only Ethereum, but also other L2s like Arbitrum, Optimism, by using this EVM RPC canister, which allows developers to not have to worry about API keys, about aggregating answers from multiple providers. It's all taken care of by this canister. And if you go to the next slide, the Deuterium milestone, in contrast, was initially motivated by Bitcoin. So there we wanted to further the integration with the Bitcoin protocol, and in particular support the Bitcoin meta protocols such as BRC20, Runes, and Ordinals. And to do that, basically, we extended chain key signatures capabilities of ICP to support threshold schnorr, which comes in several variants, one of them being those taproot transactions that are needed for those Bitcoin protocols. And a nice bonus there is that it was also easy to support another variant, which is ED25519. And this allows integration with other chains like Solana, Cardano, Ripple, etc. Therefore, extending the chain fusion capabilities of ICP beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum. And if you go to the next slide, basically the next 3 slides are about like concrete numbers of regarding chain fusion. And by the way, their credits go to Kyle for the nice graphics. And so what we see there is that basically we had a growth of 3x in terms of TVL. So at the beginning of the year, we had basically only CKBTC and CKEF with a total of around 9 million. And at the end of this year, we are like almost at 30 millions with a significant chunk being CKEF and also the CK stable token. And if you go to the next slide, basically the last message I would like to bring is the growth of those CK stable tokens. So here, CK USDC in yellow or CK USDT in blue. And we can see that although they have been around since only a few months, they are already they already form the majority of transaction volume, so more than CKBTC and CKIF, with almost like 1 million each. Yes, and on the last slide, this also shows on the total number of transactions, where CKUSDT in red and CKUSDC in yellow form the majority of the number of transactions happening on the IC. And with this, back to you.
Thank you very much, Gregory. I was very happy to finally buy some meme coins in my NNS wallet and some stable coins. And so I'm also maybe even more happy that I can see your protocols or projects actually taking this up and pushing tokens between chains and building real cross-chain applications. But the call is too short today to talk about all of that, and we have talked about that in the past. In order to just upload software, run software, and sovereign software just on the network, of course, the network needs to be secure, and that means we need to have somehow decentralized running, but of course also decentralization in the governance, because if there was just a single dictator, none of this would happen. So Laura, what happened in this area?
Yeah, happy to tell you. I'll start with the NNS highlights in 2024. And I want to point out two main big areas that have been very important this year. The first one on the next slide being that we prepared governance for really being future-proof and scale even more. And in this area, two basically activities that I want to mention are that we enabled deterministic time slicing on the system subnets. So this is great because it finally brings the system subnet settings closer to the application subnets, and it also allows Canister to process larger messages without negatively impacting subnets. And then towards the end of the year, we started working on migrating all neurons in governance to stable storage. So we now finished the preparation work for this. We had to optimize different critical paths where a lot of neurons are processed, and we were able to finalize this. So we are now ready to migrate the neurons in January next year. And then the other larger topic that I want to focus on is fostering active vote participation. So maybe this picture as a brief recap how most of the people vote in the NNS. So most of the people are, or anyone can choose to either be an active voter, which are shown here in the circles, or to delegate their voting power to someone that actively votes, which are the left people here. So for the security and the robustness of the internet computer, as Jan mentioned, it is super important that these experts or direct voters make very well-informed decisions and don't miss any proposals. And it is also important that the big mass makes good decisions on who they want to delegate their voting to and regularly revises these decisions. So over the last year, we had a lot of activities kind of helping with both of these aspects. So if you go on the next slide, what we did to basically support the voters is we introduced actionable proposals on the DApp. So this should make sure that users don't miss any proposals. They immediately see in which DAOs they can still vote on. And we introduced voting grants to support actively voting neurons so they can spend more resources on making really well-informed decisions. We then also had some activities that kind of helped in both areas that you can see on the next slide. We introduced new proposal topics. So this is basically for better organizing the proposals, both for the active voters and the followers. And we introduced an educational series also supporting both very hands-on things like how can I stake and vote, but also more technical things for the experts, like how can I verify certain proposals in depth. And finally, to support the left side and hopefully encourage people to regularly revise their following, we introduced we are working on periodic confirmation, which will mean that all followers have to regularly revise their choice, and this will actually be released early next year. So with that, I want to go to the SNS highlights of this year. And to start with it, I brought a chart, but Kyle now already spoiled the message a little bit. But you can see here in blue the number of SNS DAOs in the end of each year, and in purple the number of SNS proposals that have been submitted in the end of each year. So this again supports what Kyle already said. You can see that the DAOs on the IC are really active. You can also see that the number of proposals increased by even more than the numbers of DAOs. So while last year we focused mainly on making the launch even better and enabling all the projects that want to have an SNS to get there, this year the focus shifted more towards how we can make already launched SNSs more successful. And on the next slide, I just brought some of the activities that went in supporting that. So in the beginning of the year, we enhanced security by making it harder for SNSs to take stuff out of the treasury. So there are now larger requirements how this can be done by proposals. And the next thing that we did is we allowed the SNS communities to rebrand their tokens, so they can now change their token logo and symbol and name. And this is actually really important for a lot of communities, because a lot of the time their token is kind of part of their brand and also what brings new users into the project. So by this, I think we really empowered the community with more flexibility. And I think right after the release, immediately 3 projects actually did rename their tokens. And more towards the end of the year, we did something that's more helpful on the operational side. So this should minimize the operational burden of the DAOs by introducing a feature that makes SNS upgrades a lot easier. So while before a lot of SNS proposals were required to bring an SNS that was outdated to the latest version, now this only requires a single SNS proposal. And last but not least, I want to point out that I think this was the kind of the year where the different SNS communities came together. I think it was really great to see. We had the ICP labs here. We have now an open chat group, the DAO circle, where most of the SNS community are a part of and exchange ideas. We actually had we saw a lot of tools being built by the community that are used by other SNSs to monitor cycles or submit proposals. And I think it was the first time that we saw SNSs participate in the swaps of other SNSs. So I think it's really great to see the community together and form this kind of community of communities and don't just work in silos. So I'm really excited to see what the next year brings. And I hand it back to you, Jan.
Thanks so much, Laura, and also thank you so much for making the life of DAO participants so much easier throughout the whole year. The next big topic, of course, this year, or like one of probably the biggest topic in IT, was AI. And the internet computer wouldn't be the internet computer if AI could not run on the internet computer. So Islam, tell us how well that works.
Sure. Thank you, Jan. Hello, everyone. I'm part of the AI team here at DFINITY, and I want to spend the next few minutes covering what has been ongoing in AI in 2024. I first, though, wanted to rewind to 2023 to remind everyone that really AI on the internet computer has been and continues to be spearheaded by the community. So in 2023, that's when we started to see LLMs run in canisters. I believe the first one was ICGPT, developed by Onchain, and there they were using the tiny stories models. These ranged from 240,000 to 42 million parameters deployed on the internet computer. And then as we got into 2024, March 2024, next slide, please. That's when our former colleague Ulan released the very first AI demo that was built by DFINITY. And it was an image classification demo using a MobileNet v2. And it was really from then on that we started to see a lot of focus from our engineering teams to enhance the protocol specifically for AI computation. So in April 2024, Adam on the execution team, he worked on floating point optimizations, specifically in how we can make deterministic floating point operations faster. And this was a change that was merged back into Wasmtime, our runtime engine. So that was in 2024. And then in May of 2024, the following month, that's when Andre from the same team, he worked on supporting Wasm SIMD. And SIMD stands for single instruction, multiple data. And it essentially allows canisters now to perform multiple arithmetic operations, anywhere between 4 and 16, in a single WASM instruction. And as these were being rolled out, next slide, please, there were more demos coming in. So in June 2024, this is when DFINITY released the face recognition demo. And then in July of 2024, this is when Decide AI, they released GPT-2. I think it is probably the largest, or if not one of the largest, LLMs running on chain today, about 137 million parameters. And to show you the effect of the optimizations that Adam and Andre had been working on, next slide, please. This was all part of the cyclotron milestone. And so for the different demos that I just mentioned, we've seen anywhere between 5 and 19x improvement in terms of the computation time spent running these models. And so going into the second half of the year, that's when we really started to see the community involvement really start to take off. So Kinnick, one of the SNSs, they have released Kinnick, their open source vector database, which is a key, I'd say, library for being able to index your own personal data and have that be accessible to LLMs. And they plan to be releasing a consumer usable plugin very soon. And then later on, Onchain, they have released the Llama CPP canister. This is a project where they ported llama.cpp. This is one of the most popular LLM inference engines, and they made it work on the internet computer. And this makes it much easier to take an LLM and have it work on the internet computer itself. And then going into August, this is where we've seen Decide AI release Decide ID, arguably the first production grade AI application running on the internet computer. It is a product that proves that you are human using face recognition and a liveness test. More than 26,000 people have been through this verification, myself included, and it's already integrated with OpenChat and a few DEXs for airdrops and things like that. So really, really great growth on that spectrum. And then just to give a little teaser for what's to come in 2025. So we have been building an inference engine from scratch, specifically optimized for the internet computer. And so this is going to allow running much larger models, but maybe I'm just going to stop there as far as the teaser is concerned, and I'll save some of these details for 2025. Now back to you, Jan.
Thank you, Islam. Yeah, I won't say anything more and let you go back to work so that the teaser will work out, but I'm sure it will be anyways. Well, I guess all of this shows that we really do have a great R&D team, and I guess also for the R&D team as a team, there were some changes, because like, as every year things changed, other topics come up. There were some changes also in the R&D team, and would like to hand over to Sam for some words about that.
Thank you, Jan. Hey, I'm Sam. I lead the engineering team here at DFINITY. And yeah, we have seen headcount growth, or basically the team has been growing. From the beginning of the year to now, the headcount is about 15% more than where we started this year. Not all of these roles have been filled, so there is actually still quite some open roles. You find them online, and I want to encourage our team colleagues to make referrals, because we want to work with great people like our colleagues. There has also been changes in terms of some people left us. We could refill these positions. As always, that's also sad if some good colleagues leave. All of this translates to a lot of work in terms of interviewing, and this is often not quite visible. So I want to make a big call out or shout out to all our colleagues who do a lot of work interviewing. And you can see we had about 400 interviews conducted this year. We see the top interviewers of our team here. And another metric that I find very motivating and is testament to we are a great team and attractive to work for, we have an offer acceptance rate of 86%, which is very impressive. So very proud of this. With this, let's go to the next slide. This one shows how do we allocate all our people and resources and brain power to solve problems? And actually today was a wonderful overview of what all these teams do. So I start with the core protocol. That includes the message routing, the consensus team, networking, execution, the crypto team, boundary node team. And we have heard about the milestones, reducing latency, about decentralizing boundary nodes. This is all the work these teams do, combined with the IDX and DRE team, who focus more on the operational aspects, that we are able to build the replica quickly, that the releases go out with a high quality. So these two blocks together account for about 40%, and I'd say that's the core protocol work. On top of the protocol, we have financial integration, which has built ledgers, which were, for example, used for chain fusion, as we heard. The governance team, Lara told us about NNS changes, SNNS changes, and the identity team. That together is about 20% of our team. Then we have changed a few teams in the area of developer experience, and we're growing, has been growing in this area. So that includes the SDK team, languages, documentation. We have also, I accounted here for the people working on Ninja, the web editor, the Orbit framework. That's about 20% of our team. And then we come to some smaller buckets. For example, AI, we have the work that Islam just explained. And I want to say that this might be misleading. If you look at the slide, it shows only like 5% of our efforts go into AI, but that's not really representative, because a lot of the work that Islam just cited by Andre, for example, is actually work on the core protocol. So actually a lot of core protocol changes are tailored towards making ICP better for AI. So that's why AI is more than 5%. Similarly, Chain Fusion. Here, Chain Fusion represents the cross-chain team, but as Gregory has explained, that is actually much more work. All these signing, threshold signing algorithms is work that is again part of the core protocol. Then UTOPIA, Ivonan explained us what is going on in UTOPIA. So this team was born this year, grew to about 6% of our team, and we incubated here before this becomes its own standalone organization. And finally, we didn't talk so much today about wallets, but we spent quite some effort on the OISI wallet and also the Orbit wallet, which is very essential to make it a smooth experience to hold token and to interact with DeFi applications. I hope that gives you an idea where we spent our work, and I'm very proud to be a member of this very capable team who has done so much this year, as we have seen today. And with this, I hand back to you, Jan.
Thank you, Sam. I guess we're reaching the end of this global R&D, and would also really say a huge shout out, a huge thanks to all the R&D team members, every one of you. It has been a great year. We have really achieved a lot. Looking back at the year and doing all these reviews really shows you like what we have achieved together, how far we've come in the time I've been here, and it's a huge pleasure working with you every day, and looking forward to many of those like 365 days next year. And so huge thank you. Let's keep up the great work. Let's make 2025 rock. But of course, also a huge thank you to all the pioneer developers out there who set out to build cool stuff on top of ICP, give us feedback. Like without all you developers, our lives would be rather dull and boring. We need you. We need your feedbacks. We need you building. After all, that's what we're in for here. And I guess finally, of course, also thank you for all the end users who actually are using all these things, who are clicking their web browsers to be going to the internet computer and enjoy all of those things. Thank you very much as well. Now, if you didn't have enough internet computer news, join us tomorrow or on Friday for the World Computer Show and the ICP year in review from like all the different aspects, not only from R&D. So yeah, please tune in there, and thank you for attending, and go and watch the Global R&D again on YouTube. Share the links with all your friends and colleagues, and who not, be generous sharing this Thanks a lot. See you again next year. Bye-bye.